And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of us that are out there. I want to welcome everyone for joining. I'm super excited to be on the second episode of Blue TV with the infamous and exciting, well-known Bobby Umar. Bobby, welcome.
Hey Denise, I love it. Blue TV, baby. I love it. It's funny.
Yeah, how fun. We are, for those that don't know, we are not only live here, we are also live on Facebook, although I'm getting better at tech. So I'm not going to say that I'm not good at it. I am getting better at this technology, but I am going to be trying to manage comments and just, reaching out to those that are out there on with us in both areas. So if I'm not looking directly at Bobby, it doesn't mean I'm not listening to him. I'm trying to manage both. So if you're interested in being helping us manage comments for Blue TV, let us know and we can bring you on board. But I'm so super excited to have Bobby Umar here. Before he does his introduction, I created Blue TV. Obviously, this is only episode 2, but as a means to really share with the LinkedIn community some great individuals who have had some success here on LinkedIn, not really spend as much time necessarily on their success here, but more about their journey here on LinkedIn. And then, if we get some good tips at the end, then great. But more importantly, I just wanted to introduce everyone weekly to people who I think are just making such a positive impact on LinkedIn. Hence why Bobby is here. So thank you, Bobby, for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to come by today.
No problem. Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'll make it really short. Denise Murtha Bachman. I'm coming to you from Houston. I do lots of things related to sales and AI and humanizing sales, but that's not the exciting. I'm not the exciting one on this live stream. It is really all about Bobby. So, Bobby, if you could share with us a little bit more, spend a bit more time on yourself than I just did on mine, but give us a quick introduction on who you are, what you do, and then we'll start to dive right into all about a TEDx platform.
Sure. So I started out as a motivational speaker. For the last 20 years, I've done 1,000 keynotes across 4 continents over the last 20 years. It's been an amazing journey for me. And during the pandemic, things kind of fell apart from the speaking event business. But, as a speaker and as a content creator, it's something I'm really passionate about. I started transitioning to doing more work on personal branding, on thought leadership, on building your voice on LinkedIn, on other platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And eventually started helping people with storytelling. And next thing you know, someone's like, hey, Bobby, TEDx, you've done 5 TEDx talks. I've also rejected 3 other ones. Maybe that's something that you can talk about. Like, yeah, you know what? So then I started dabbling in that. And now, what I do for the most part is I focus on, I land you a TEDx talk guaranteed in 6 months. That's what I do. So you want to get on stage this year, I'll do that. And what I do is it culminates all my efforts in public speaking, storytelling, personal branding, thought leadership, and digital content and strategy. And I put all that together to help people land a TEDx talk. And the TEDx talk also helps you build those things, but also we leverage those things to actually come up with really good TEDx ideas. So that's what I do. I land you TEDx talk, and it's great for your brand. It leads to media opportunities, speaking gigs, higher fees, job opportunities. I can tell you that my first TEDx talk definitely catapulted my life to the next level. I'll do that. And what I do is gigs, higher fees, job opportunities. I can tell you that my first TEDx talk definitely catapulted my life to the next level. I'll do that. And what I do.
Sorry, there was an echo.
Yeah, it was a long echo.
I know. I'm so sorry. So for those of you that are just joining us, I'll explain it quickly again. We are streaming through Facebook and YouTube as well. And I am learning how to adapt to those technologies. I've got LinkedIn, I think, down pretty good, but I just somehow I clicked on something and the volume popped up. So I apologize for that. So if you heard an echo or you heard other conversation, that was the Facebook version of this, because I'm trying to see it all so I can try to manage it. So help. If anyone's out there who wants to help with comments, let us know so that you can join us for future episodes. But enough about that.
Sure. Yay, tech fails. That's a TEDx talk. Okay.
Well, so first off, I think, Bobby, I think we have actually been connected for quite some time on LinkedIn, at least 2 years, but I didn't really, get to know you super well until more recently when I joined Chris Colt's TEDx challenge that he and you together partnered on, in which it was really all about learning how to get on and I don't think that was the exact title, so I apologize if I'm butchering it, but how to get on to the TEDx platform.
Yeah.
And that's where I got to know Bobby really, really well. And I think, I will say, and I created a testimonial for Bobby and that challenge because working in that, even just those 5 days, right? It was a 5-day challenge. If you don't know Chris Colt, go find him. He does a great job of helping his clients to really build out challenges. But in the time that I spent with Bobby and the exercises in those 5 days that he had us go through, I learned more even about myself. So put aside the whole TEDx platform. It was so amazing to go down this even quick journey of who I really was and some of the things that I uncovered about myself. So when you talk about a TEDx, there's huge value. We'll get to the value and why that can be important for your brand and leverage for visibility and credibility. That's a whole nother topic. But talk to us a little bit about some of that journey as you're moving towards, determining what your topic might be. Then, figuring out from that topic, how do you expand that into a TEDx talk? What are some of the process or the journey that you take someone through?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I took the 5-day challenge and turned it into a bit of a journey was because I'm trying to bring in all the things that come up from my clients over like the last several years. And for example, the TEDx clients that I've had who've done the work and got a TEDx talk, they had challenges, they had issues, and so we kind of I put them all together into one kind of piece. So the first thing really is the hardest thing for one of the challenges for getting TED Talk. Number one is, do I deserve one? So we have to, the mindset piece, we got to get over that. Every single one of you can do a TEDx talk. Every single one of you deserves a TEDx talk. There are 10-year-olds who've done a TEDx talk. There are 90-year-olds who've done one, so you can too. It doesn't really matter how much experience you have or little experience you have. It's all about the story. So we try to overcome that challenge by talking about mindset is the first piece. The second piece is, the second hardest thing is, how do I come up with a really good idea? And this actually is the most important step of the entire process, because every time I say, tell me your ideas, and anyone here who's listening and you want to share ideas share ideas in the comments, most of them are either vague or general or not unique. And I was like, you have to come up with a really, really good idea. And that's a really hard thing to do. And that's why I take people through the process of going through their life story. And so the idea is the most important piece, but it's the one that a lot of people find the hardest. Then the other hardest part about this is the application. I applied to TEDx a couple of times and nothing happened. Well, that's because you need to know how to put together the right application. Because, like having been to 5 TEDx talks and also rejected 3 other ones, I know, and worked with my clients, we know how to take the typical application and make sure it really stands out. What are you doing to answer those questions concisely, persuasively, and all that kind of stuff? And I think those are probably the 3 biggest things. And then I think the other thing that I'm really big on is, if you want to get a TEDx talk, you need to tell the world about it. So like people, I don't want to talk about it. No, tell them. In fact, one of my clients, she actually landed her TED talk and she was very excited. I said, great, now talk about it. Oh, it's not for a couple months. I'm going, no, tell people about it. Take them through the journey so that when you're there, because the other thing is, with the TEDx journey, it's 3 parts. One is to land the TEDx talk, which is the hardest part. Then there's, now how do I put together an amazing TEDx talk? And then finally, how do I leverage that TEDx talk for my brand and thought leadership? So when I did my first TEDx talk, I knew this is going to be a huge piece for me. I'm going to leverage a video. I'm going to put it out there. I want to build this up and build my brand. And so when my TEDx talk came, it was actually the day of the launch of my entire digital strategy. On March 5th, 2011, which was the day of my first TEDx talk, I launched my newsletter. I launched my Twitter strategy. I launched my Facebook page strategy. And I basically have put together a strategy on Twitter and LinkedIn to talk about the TEDx talk and what I was doing. So you got to be able to do that. So talk about these things as you go along the journey. That's why digital your digital voice is so important to put things out there and talk about the stories and the ideas that you have across the platform. So for me, those are probably the 4 key things I really try to get people to focus on. The other one, of course, is strategic networking and network with the right people. But what I did in the 5-day challenge was I outlined here are the challenges people have, and then here's my 5-step process. But I really want to lay into the challenges, because what people don't realize is that if you go through those challenges, you'll actually find some really great stuff, because my methodology is helps with mindset. My methodology helps with personal branding. My methodology helps with vision and targeting. It helps with your branding, your thought leadership. So all these different things come into play, and they're all, I kind of create a model for, which I share in the program. But that's what I do. But it is deep dive stuff. And look, there are people out there, and I can stop if I'm talking too much, but there are tons of programs out there with tons of prices, both high and low, and they all have their different ways. There's different things they promise. I've seen some that promise it very, very fast. I don't promise that. I prefer the deep dive process. Other people want the quick and easy fix solution. That's not me. All I can tell you is that if you only do the work, and honestly, the total amount of work is only 30 to 50 hours. So, in 6 months, that's what, 2-3 hours a week?
Yeah, that's not a whole heck of a lot.
But I tell you, if you do the 30 to 50 hours, I can guarantee you'll get a TEDx talk.
Well, I'll talk about, I won't share the story that I shared, with you or the community through that process, because that's really, really deep for me. But it took me down this path. So most people that know me, although those that I'm streaming on through Facebook or YouTube may not know, but I have been down this journey since, 2022, on this really journey of healing, right? And started in 21. There was a catalyst that prompted that. And I've been on this journey, and I'm on the other side. But as you get to the other side, there are always things that you start to uncover that still impact you in some way. And working with, and I paid for the VIP pass, right? So I got a little bit more, I say treatment, it wasn't special treatment, but I got a little bit more time with Bobby and a little bit more one-on-one, which enabled me to really dive in really deep. And I uncovered something that I hadn't talked about, I think, with anyone, that I didn't realize was that deep rooted, that probably impacts me in ways that I don't really know. Once you get, for me, I always say you got to work through your baggage, and everyone has baggage. Everyone's had their own definition of what trauma is. And until you work through it, it's always going to rear its ugly head somewhere in your life. And I had gotten on the other side of that journey. But once you do that, then it opens up the door for all these other things that, it's easier to shift or manage through them, right? We call those micro moments. It's easier to get through those micro moments when you're on the other side. But that micro moment really, it stopped me in my tracks for, I would say probably a week. I was able to get through, if I'd have been in a different place at a different time in my life, I might not have been able to get through it that quickly. And who knows, maybe a year from now, if I were managing to that, could have gotten through it a lot quicker. But I guess where I'm going with the whole point of that is it made me really dig super deep, and yet uncover something else that I needed as part of this journey of living my best life, right? And so for that, I can only thank you. But that's a testament to the fact that you don't just teach someone or coach someone how to get on stage, and which includes the application process. You really go deep to get to a story that is really valuable. And that isn't the story that I'll lead in on, but that releasing that story enables me to be able to tackle some of the other things, the other stories that I might actually want to share in a new way, because I have yet gotten past something else in my life that I need to get past. To me, it was an amazing experience working with you.
Thank you. And what I would say is that doing that deep dive work into our story is also the deep dive work that people do in their brands, where they do a lot of deep reflection assessment of who they are, what they believe in, what they stand for, and then the feedback process, how people perceive them, how they experience them, getting that critical feedback will you start to see things that you like about yourself, things that maybe you don't like about yourself. But also there's a chance to process. And the reason why this is so important is because when you can own your past and own your story and, empower the stuff you've been through, both the vulnerable, the traumatic, whatever it might be, you're going to become way better at content, way better at speaking, way better at relationship building, way better at everything, because a better you is a better everything else. And so I'm a big believer in that. I've also been through different transformative journeys on my path. And so, I like to create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing that trust and being able to learn from that. It's such and again, it helps with, I started doing that when I was working with people with personal branding, the deep dive stuff. But now I see it definitely helps with the TEDx. It definitely helps with thought leadership. It helps with so much stuff. So yeah, you and other people were sharing some really vulnerable stories. And it's funny, just today because today is actually I'll plug it, but today is the launch of my 6-month TEDx Mastery program. So I was putting together the first touches of the session 1, and I was reflecting on the life story, and I was looking at some of the challenges people have. And one of the challenges they have is, how vulnerable do I get? How, dark do I go? And it's something that, you have to figure that out. I've had clients who don't want to talk about some of their darker stuff and other people that are comfortable with it. But it definitely unravels and opens up great conversation that, again, leads to insights, stories, and just profound impact for your life and business.
I agree. Well, we could be on this topic.
Yeah, I know. That's the one thing, eh?
But I guess, tell me what made you, or what led you down this path to even want to do your own TEDx?
Well, when TEDx first was presented to me, I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, well, someone said, hey, Bobby. And actually, so what happened was someone who'd worked for me as an intern came back and said, hey, Bobby, I'd love to bring you to come to my TEDx event. I'm like, what's that? And I didn't know what it was. So then I looked it up, and I said, wow, holy cow, this is like amazing. All the biggest names, leaders, business, political, sports heroes, philosophers, scientists, they're all doing this thing. Really, really cool. And I saw it as a fantastic branding opportunity for my business, which at the time, I will admit, was doing okay. Like it wasn't great. I'd been at that point, I'd been a motivational speaker for almost like over 4 years. And I was like, I'm still trying to like break that next level. And so I saw it as an opportunity. And I knew that when I got it, and then of course things did happen. I started traveling internationally. My speeds went up significantly, and it was just really great for my brand. And I didn't even talk about my business. I just talked about a story about how to connect deeply, authentically with people. And people loved that event, and it led to actual business, even though it was a more personal story that I shared. But I saw it as an opportunity because the video is there. It's well known. It's a great brand, and of course. So I did the one, but then because I had a pretty strong thought leadership brand out there, people started inviting me to other ones. And so the first 4 that I did, I was invited over a period of 2 years. And I just, yeah, let's do it. I just went and did it. I got invited to actually MC one of them, which is very hard. I'm not sure I would ever do that again, but I did that too. And so then the 4-time TEDx speaker thing became part of my brand, and I started just using it. And I never looked back. It certainly, it definitely transformed and changed my life, my business, and it's been a huge part of what I do.
So I want to make sure that we reiterate that your original TED topic, and maybe even all 4 of them, didn't always have anything to do, or at least your original one didn't have anything to do with your business. And so the message there is, it doesn't have to be business related. It can be whatever topic that you want. But the result of having been on a TEDx stage opened up so many doors and opportunities that it enabled you to then increase not only your visibility, but then establish even a deeper credibility, which is today when we're engaging with prospective clients, or when we as the client are engaging with individuals of whom we want to potentially purchase services or products from, it's not just about know, like, and trust. It's know, like, and trust with credibility. And that establishes a credibility amongst your community or those that you're going to work with, I feel like, in a way that differentiates you from your competitors. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the main reason, every single one of my TEDx talks had nothing to do with my business. And what I would tell you is that almost all the best TEDx talks out there are not about business. They're about the personal story that impacted your life. And it's almost always about what is the idea or message that you want to share with the world that will impact them. It usually comes from your personal story. I mean, there are the odd stories about a business growth and things like that, but even Bill Gates came out and talked about malaria. He didn't talk about his business. He talked about malaria and how to eradicate it in Africa. And so, for the most part, what I find is that it makes people really resonate with you. The vulnerability is a deep connector, and people see you as a human as opposed to business, and so they want to work with humans versus business robots. And so that's why, and same with the career, they want to hire people who are human as opposed to robots. And so that's why the TEDx thing is so powerful. I encourage all my clients to focus. I don't mind finding a business story among. What I typically do is I try to find 3 TEDx ideas. And one of them, if you want it to be about your business story, great. But the other 2, not. No, let's make it personal. Let's make it vulnerable. And let's come up with that story and pitch that one.
But let's talk about that, because not everyone feels comfortable. And we'll use me as an example, because when we spent time on the phone, we went through kind of my life history. And while I did uncover a story that was really raw and that I could leverage as a TEDx talk, it's not one that I want to share with the world, and most certainly not want to associate with my brand. I don't know why. That's my own issue, right? That's not to say that it's a bad topic and no one should ever talk about it. And I think less of anyone who would. But I guess where I'm going with that is there are those conversation topics that may just be taboo for you. Yes. But for those that are not great at being vulnerable, how do you find those stories that aren't maybe as crazy as mine, right? But that are still vulnerable for those individuals and still enable them, however, to get a message out that might help someone else? Because I think in the end, when we put ourselves in that position to talk about something that is somewhat vulnerable for us, it's a learning opportunity for others, correct? I mean, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, the research that Brene Brown talks about is that being vulnerable opens up a conversation with other people to feel vulnerable too. It tells people, hey, I'm not alone. I've been through the same thing. So if I talked about my binge eating challenges, someone out there would say, wow, I have binge eating too. I so relate. I sent an email out just yesterday talking about that my family's not going through this process of identifying ADHD challenges amongst all of us, my kids and my partner and myself. And I finally started telling people this, and all of a sudden I got 3 emails like, Bobby, oh my God, I totally relate. And I was, whoa, okay. Because they don't feel like they're alone anymore. I'm talking about it because it's okay. Now, I want to clarify one thing, which, vulnerability is the best way to connect to people deeply, but it doesn't have to be a vulnerable talk. What it has to be is meaningful. That's the most important thing. So a meaningful story. So for example, I could tell the story about my grandfather and why I'm so proud of him and what he taught me. And that's a very inspiring story. It's a very meaningful story. It's a story, but I'm not sharing any of the vulnerability about myself. I'm just sharing what I thought was awesome about him. And that's okay too. You can actually have something, or it could be something as simple as something your kid said that made you laugh, and all of a sudden that turns into a TED Talk. There's an entire TED Talk on how to tie your shoelaces. There's another TED Talk specifically just on how to use paper towel properly and shake your hands to remove excess water, and then use less paper towel to save the planet. It was the very simple ideas. And so, but again, going through that story to uncover it takes the time to figure that stuff out. It doesn't have to be vulnerable. It just has to be meaningful.
Okay, I like that, because I'm not sure that everyone wants to be vulnerable, and everyone
Right.
defines vulnerability a bit differently, right? And they're different.
Yeah, there's different levels of how much you want to share.
Correct.
But I think that you have to come up with a story that's meaningful. So, and there's lots of meaningful stories that we all have that even people tell us all the time, hey, tell us a story again, that one you talked about in college, and your buddies ask you, and you tell the story, and everyone gets a laugh. Even funny stories can be a TED Talk.
I love that. And if you haven't actually sat through a TED Talk, you should do that. So those of you in the audience who may not know really what a TED Talk is like, they are on, there's a channel that I turn it to on my TV where it's nothing but TED Talks, one right after the other. And it's really cool because you get you get various different types of stories from different industries and different people with different backgrounds and different degrees of vulnerability and different messages. I mean, it's really cool. So you should go spend some time looking at those. But, how has this translated a TED Talk? I know you talked about the 10 benefits, and I think you've covered some of them, but let's talk about how some of those benefits, and maybe you can recap some of the ones you've already shared with us and share with us then further as to how that's really helped you here on the LinkedIn platform. Because, we're here on LinkedIn, we're all leveraging LinkedIn. We want to get better. We need some tips. How has this really helped you?
Well, I think the primary reason why TEDx is so amazing is because of the branding and the PR, right? So basically what happens is when you do a TEDx talk or someone sees you as a TEDx speaker, that you are now automatically branded as somebody who's an expert in their field, an authority figure in their industry. You're also branded as someone who's a good speaker, potentially someone who's a good coach or a consultant, somebody who's a good storyteller, because it's a big part of the TEDx thing. So all those things come to play as soon as you've done a TEDx talk. Right. So that's the big thing. The PR aspect, of course, is that, people, check out this TED Talk. They're willing to share your talk because they heard about it. And then also there's PR around it. People want to interview you. You can put some media around it, which is kind of great. And then, of course, the TEDx video itself, once it's set up there, and you can start to get some great views. I mean, one of my primary goals was to try to get my TEDx talk on the TED.com site, because that's kind of what I really wanted. And so my fifth one finally did that, which is great. Okay, now it's there, because then you get all these hits, right? Which is kind of what you want. So I think that's also part of it too. So the awareness building of it is also really huge. And then, of course, if I have multiple TEDx talks, there's even more credibility, because for many years I was positioning myself as a motivational speaker, as a keynote. So having 4 or 5 TEDx talks was great for that, because I'm now an established brand as a speaker, as opposed to just a one-off. And I also think that a TEDx is the same value as having a book, same value as having an established program that has, testimonials. It's basically cred, like LinkedIn Top Voice, to say that you're legit, you're here and you're legit and you're authentic. And I think that's an important piece. So that's why I'm really big on helping people get them, no matter where they are.
I love that. How have you seen, okay, so let's talk about the reason why I created Blue TV was because there were a lot of us who had received the LinkedIn Blue, Top Voice designation, right? And I wanted a way for us to share a little bit about what we're doing on LinkedIn that is super successful. We've talked about, TEDx, and Bobby's really taking us through how to create a story and then get through the application process. And I think, and he's talked about some of the benefits, and primarily it is just building this credibility and this visibility and enabling you to skyrocket your business and your authority. But how have you taken that to LinkedIn? So when we do a TEDx talk, for example, we know that there'll be benefits, but how do you then message that out on LinkedIn and do it in a way that is that shows your authority without tooting your horn so much? So,
well, I mean, I think sharing the story of what you're doing, like, I mean, if you land a TEDx talk, going through the process of TEDx talk, I think you should talk about it. It's great content. People resonate. I mean, some people just do a poll. Hey, have you thought about doing a TEDx talk? Yes or no, and then start a conversation with people. As if you get the TEDx talk, you tell people about the journey. Hey, you know what? I'm prepping my title for my talk. Here are my 3 titles. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? And crowdsource people. People love to share their opinions on things. So when I did my fifth TEDx talk, I went through a very long process of multiple polls to get the title for it. So the title ended up being, "Could you change a person's life in 20 seconds?" But that came through, I think, 3 or 4 polls that I did to try to extract the keywords that people really liked. And I finally got to the final answer of what the TED Talk was going to be titled, right? So you can take people through that journey. You can share photos, you can share images. Also, you can take snippets of your TED Talk and use that as content, just to personalize yourself. I mean, not every piece of content you put on LinkedIn has to be about your expertise. I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule. 80% of my content is on brand. I'll talk about TEDx talks, I'll talk about speaking and personal branding and whatnot. But the other 20% of the time, it's just something random. Okay, here's a personal story from me. Like yesterday, I posted about about Ramadan, because it's now the middle of the month of fasting. So I thought, oh, that's a personal post. Let me post about that. Has nothing to do with my business, but I still posted it, and that's fine. And then today I posted about TEDx today. So like for me, you mix it up, and people like the personal stuff because to me, it's a way to, again, be relatable. So you can take your TEDx content and use snippets of it and share that with your audience and share what your learnings are. So I think that goes a long way. And I want to add one more thing, which is we're talking about benefits too. Like the thing that happened was once I had the TEDx brand, what happened was when people were approaching me for jobs, which I didn't want, and for speaking gigs, which are great, but it also led to me getting an agent too, and then which also commanded higher fees, right? And at the same time, people were, and now I had more confidence too that, okay, well, I'm getting some great cred this way, people are coming my way, I can now start, raising my prices or start getting into consulting, which I wasn't doing before that. Before I was more just, I'm a speaker and that's all I did. But then as people started asking me for coaching consulting because they saw me as an expert. And I also repositioned my speaking, because I used to say in the early days of my speaking business, what do you do for a living? I'm a speaker. Well, yes, but the truth is everyone's a brand and everyone's an expert. So what I had to do, it was a position, no, I'm an expert. I'm an expert at the time. I was an expert, leadership development expert with expertise in networking, personal branding, that type of thing. And so I started becoming the expert in which I talk about TEDx. I coach, I speak, I have a book, like all that kind of stuff. So I started focusing my efforts on being the expert in something, and the TEDx thing really helped, because even though my first TEDx talk was not about my business, it was about the power of connection. Basically, it was about how to connect deeply with people in an authentic way, is what I talked about. And I leveraged that specifically for my ability to do keynotes and networking.
I love that. I think that what my takeaway from a TEDx talk is, not only does it help me with myself personally and really understanding, a bit more about myself and my why, and, helping me define a bit more strategically what my business looks like, but it also helps with the branding. And, oh, by the way, it allows you to open up all these new doors of opportunities that could unfold. I mean, if you look at you were traditionally just a speaker, and then you went into coaching, and then it blossomed to a book and more TEDx talks and consulting, and the sky is the limit. Some of it was because of just the notoriety of being on a TEDx stage, but then some of it was the confidence that you had built. And, just the more you got to know yourself, the stronger you were as an individual. Confidence aside, it was that you were stronger and bolder. And, there's so many great things that leveraging that can come from leveraging a TEDx talk.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize how much better it is for your brand to have it. So, I try to get rid of those myths, because I was even talking to some of the people in our LinkedIn Top Voices group, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, I don't. Some people didn't understand why it was valuable. I'm like, look, it's gonna. I mean, if you want to get better opportunities, you want to be known, have a stronger brand, be known for things. You want to be able to increase your prices and get more business. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do it. It's a no-brainer. So that's my pitch to everybody. Just do it and see all the things actually increase and get better.
So if we were to take on that challenge and actually do it, what's the average, like when you decide you want to do it, usually how long after that? What's the process like? Is it like a 2-month, a 3-month? Is it,
well, a lot of it depends. A lot of it depends on what your idea is. A lot of it depends on which TEDx event you're going to target, right? So it really depends. I mean, the truth is, like my 5th TEDx talk, someone emailed me and said, "Hey, there's a TEDx talk happening, and their theme is the power of connection. That's what you talk about, Bobby. You should apply." And so then that is good. And I have a topic in my back pocket, which I always have. And I want to talk about hugs. So the next day I did a video and I pitched it. The next day they called me and I got it. So that took 2 days. So, I mean, it can happen pretty fast. But again, I think that if you're starting from scratch, or you're not sure what you're doing, and you're not sure about mindset or your story or idea, the application, like I said, 30, 50 hours, I say 3 to 6 months is what it would take. I mean, someone who wants to really hustle and work hard, yes, can can do it quickly. But I say, the 3 to 6 month process is kind of what I go for. And that's where my guarantee comes into play. It's like, look, if you're willing to do my work, because the truth is everyone who's done my work and gone through it has landed TEDx Talk 100%. The ones who haven't is because they haven't followed through. They haven't done the work. I got a message from somebody today, say, Bobby, I haven't got the TEDx Talk. I said, and they say, honestly, I haven't had time or put the time in to pitch. I'm like, well, then you're not going to get it. You got to pitch it, right? So I think that for me, 3 to 6 months is a good timeline for me to personally guarantee getting a TEDx Talk. But ultimately, it's about the work. Are you willing to put the work in to do what it takes? And if you're willing to do that 50 hours of work, yes, you can get a TEDx Talk even quicker.
I love that. So given that we've already seen, the challenge is already long, I was going to use a German word because that's what's sticking in my head, but long by, past us, behind us, vorbei is what I wanted to say. And you've just started your cohort, your 6-month cohort now. What are some other ways? Can they first sign up still for this cohort? Yeah. And what are some of the other ways that they can work with you if it's not within this specific cohort?
Yeah. So
why am I struggling today? Sorry.
Yeah. So what I would say is that, the 6-month program, the truth is the first 6 weeks are, trainings. Then next 6 weeks will be coaching. And then the other 3 months are going to be just monthly calls. But there's going to be a community group where people can ask questions 24/7 for 6 months. So they're going to access to me and everyone else and help each other out. What I would say is that you can join anytime, because even if you join 3 weeks later, you can just get the replays of all the sessions and then start doing the work. I mean, if you're willing to hustle 4 weeks later and do 20 hours in the next month, then yeah, you can easily catch up to everybody else. So it's not a big deal. I plan to do the 5-day challenges several times this year. I plan to do this one, the 6-month program 3 times this year. So we're gonna do another one probably in May, June, and then we'll do another one probably in early fall. But that's kind of the plan. And I think that, people want to ask if they want to work with me one-on-one. What I tell them is, look, you can, but this program, I'm putting everything into it. So, because the truth is, you're not only getting a TEDx guy, you're going to get a personal branding guy, a thought leadership guy, a public speaking guy, a storytelling guy, because I've done all those workshops before. So, for example, I have a personal branding course or program that I did digitize during this pandemic, and I was selling it for lots of money. I'm putting that in this program. I have another one for thought leadership, 5 hours of training. I'm putting that in this program. You want to become a paid speaker and get speaking gigs, I'm giving you all my resources and bonuses from my speaker mastermind that I did before the pandemic. So I'm putting it all into this. Now, the people who want individual, they can book me one-on-one, but you're going to pay almost the same price and you're not going to get all that other stuff. So what I would say is this is the program to go for. However, people can work with me one-on-one as well, and that's fine. They can just ping me and we can talk about it. But the program itself has a lot of stuff. And I put a lot of stuff in there because I believe that not only should you be thinking about TEDx, but if I can help you with personal branding, storytelling, and your content strategy, then why not? Isn't that good for your career business? Absolutely.
Well, and it just adds to, once you land a TEDx, there's so much more, especially from, witnessing all or hearing all the opportunities that arose for you. You've got to be able to support all those opportunities. And the only way you're going to do that is to have a brand that, personal brand that you've built and that you believe in, and to have the ability to be a thought leader and have that experience behind you. And then it launches and gives you the ability to go out and do additional talks and
the other thing I'll say is that, one of my clients, Michael, got his TEDx Talk pretty quickly in about 2.5 months. So then we spend the rest of our time actually helping him create the TEDx Talk and then formulate and plan how to leverage that talk for his digital presence, because he wants to become a paid speaker. And so now he's been doing all that. I fully anticipate people in this program to land it sooner than 6 months, and then we'll spend the rest of the time, okay, now let's prepare it. Now let's leverage it. What's the plan there? Because I can put all my knowledge there to help them with that as well.
Awesome. So how do we find you if we're so interested in working with you? Where do we go other than LinkedIn? Do you have a website, or is there a place where you can see the testimonials from other people?
Yeah, I'm everywhere, but basically my main website is rayallen.com, which is my company name. You can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Threads, all different places for sure. And you can just send me a message and we can start the conversation. Or and I'm happy to, I'm looking for people who really, really want to go to that next level, do the work, and understand the benefits of it. Because, and then the other thing I'll mention too is like, I'm here to look at people who really want it and are established professional speakers and can feel comfortable being on stage. I'm not in the process of training new speakers to get confidence to speak. No, that's what I did 15 years ago. Now I'm taking people who are at a seasoned level of professionalism and they really want to now share a message for the world and create that impact, as well as get the benefits for the business or career. So that, and just reach out to me anytime.
I love that. Okay, so if you want to reach out to Bobby and work with him, you can find him on LinkedIn. But not only can you find him under his profile, he also hosts a couple of different audio rooms. Tell us all the activity that you're doing on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So we know where.
So I'm pretty active. I mean, the truth is, people come. I share content regularly. So I shared something just this morning. I do audio rooms twice a week on Tuesdays on LinkedIn at 4 p.m. and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I often do sometimes a Twitter space here and there, but those are the two things I'm doing regularly. For me, again, I get a lot of free stuff. These are my free things where you can ask me stuff. And then there's different levels where you go through membership or community groups or through the mastery program. So I hope people will come by. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that people don't understand too. They think, Bobby, of 500,000 followers on Twitter and 70,000 on LinkedIn and 35,000 on Instagram. I guess you're not accessible. Well, the truth is, if you actually comment on my posts and ask a question, you know how rare that is? Of course I'm going to answer the question. Like, I'll answer your question. You can put a question in one of my posts. I'll answer it, because very few people actually comment on posts. And that's also a great way to access me. Or if I do an audio room, there's all these people in the bottom who comes up. Some people, no one comes up. If you come up and ask a question, I'm there for an hour. Ask me anything you want.
I love that. I think that that's probably the most important thing that I've learned here on LinkedIn is that if you are engaging with someone, it's more about the conversation that you're having. And conversation isn't a conversation if you're not asking one another questions. And I know myself, when I get into this mode of commenting, I don't always ask a question because I'm in this mode of just commenting, making sure that, I'm engaging with them, letting them know I'm here, making sure they know I value their content, that I forget sometimes to ask a question. But again, the relationships, the getting to know one another really happens in the conversations, which really is a give and take, which means you have to ask some questions.
Sure. And by the way, speaking of questions and comments, someone just said, first off, Simona said, Bobby will respond to your comment. Yeah, one of my brand promises, I'm very responsive. So when you message me on WhatsApp or text, or if you send me an email, DMs, I'm quite responsive across all the different platforms. Patrice asked, what's the website? So it's rayallen.com, RAEALLAN.com. That's my company name. But again, if you just Google Bobby Moore, you will find me, and you'll be able to see hopefully the website SEO comes at the top. I hope so. If not, somebody tell me, because I got to fix that. But I think it's
and we'll put it in the comments too after. So it may not be right after, but within the next day or so, we'll have if Bobby doesn't have a chance to do it, I'll be sure to do it as well, before the weekend, or at least by the weekend. So look for the website there if you need it. But I think if you go to your profile, you could probably find it under the action the action button, right?
You can find it there for sure.
Okay. Well, I want to be cognitive of everyone's time and respectful of your time, Bobby. I appreciate you joining me here today as we have launched this Blue TV. It's been a lot of fun to let everyone get to know you a bit more, your own TEDx journey, sharing with us how you help all of us potentially, step onto a TEDx stage in the process, and then the value and benefits if we do a TEDx talk. And I think the most important LinkedIn tip here is, that I think the takeaway for most of us, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Bobby, so you can add your own takeaway if it's not this one, but, make sure that you're engaging in the conversations, make sure you're asking questions. And then when you do that, you will get people like Bobby much more engaged, and they'll see you more, and you'll start to gain not only credibility, but more important, visibility, because credibility doesn't mean anything if you're not visible in front of the right audience. So would you add to that, or would you?
No, that's great. And I think that the only thing I would say is that help is out there. You have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to show up and ask the questions. I mean, the truth is, some people comment, most don't. Some people show up on stage and ask questions, most don't. Some people network effectively, most don't. Some people, are doing the work with a coach or taking programs and things like that, but most don't. So, do you want to be that 0.4 or 2 or 10 or 5% of people that are doing that stuff? Then yeah, just ask for help because people will come by and help you.
People want to help. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't ask, they're not going to offer. So all you got to do is ask. They want to help.
Exactly. Amen, sister.
All right. Well, so we're going to just remind everyone, in order to find you, we will put his website down in the comments, but you can find Bobby on all of the platforms. Here on LinkedIn in particular, you can go to his profile page. There's an action button that will take you to his website. He also shows up on lives all across the platform, but he also holds his own twice a week audio events. You can find all of that under his profile, under his events. So go find him. He also has a cohort that he's working that has started actually this week, but you can join at any given point. So be sure to ask him. There are testimonials. I'm one of them of what I learned in my challenge. He's going to be offering the challenges a couple of more times throughout the year. So stay tuned for those if you don't join his cohort now. But I think that what I've taken away from my experience with Bobby, first off, is he's just an amazing human being. He has that right mix of vulnerability and business, and and he does that well here on LinkedIn, allowing us to get to know him. But he also has this amazing journey that he wants to share with everyone, so that we can not only share our messages on a stage like TEDx, but that we can build our brand and our business and be as successful as we want to be. So we thank you for joining us please say his full name. It's covered up by the caption. Bobby Umar, UMAR, Bobby Umar.
Take away the caption, they'll see it.
Oh, sorry, I could do that. There we go.
All right. Hey, that's it.
All right. So thank you, Bobby, for joining us. Thank you to everyone who has been with us on Team Live. If you aren't on Team Live and you're joining us as part of the replay, just let us know that your Team Replay. We will go back and respond to comments and let you know that we are acknowledging them. We can see them, but I'm not great enough yet where I can manage all of the comments and the conversation. So bear with me as I continue to get better with that. You can find him again here on LinkedIn. For myself, I have Blue TV. This is the second episode. We do have these every Wednesday at the same time. I also have Cafe AI chats that I do earlier in the morning on Wednesdays. I have coffees with Denise on Fridays, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I don't spend my time in any other platform, unfortunately, but I'm all in here. So we welcome you guys to join us again next week. Go seek out Bobby, get to know him, engage with his content, ask him a question. He'll engage back. Join his audio room and get on stage and have a conversation with him and find out how to join his cohort. It's easy. Just look him up under this profile and head to his website. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you to everyone else. Wishing everyone a wonderful, happy hump day. And we'll see you guys all here next week or in our feeds and in the comments.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.